In today's tactics video, I'm going to examine the Baneblade family of models and whether they are now a viable option given their sponsored weapon point drops, noob 2+ armor save and armor of contempt now affecting all Astra Militarum vehicles. Being the proud owner of one, I personally really want this to be true, so let's check it out. So let's start with the point cost of all the different variants. I'll assume all have 2 sponsored weapons attached for simplicity, and I'll also highlight their weapons quickly, with the front mounted twin heavy bolters being common across all variants. So the original gangster, the Baneblade, with a D3 demolisher cannon, an autocannon and the Baneblade cannon comes in at 470 points. The Hellhammer has the same weapons, but with the Hellhammer cannon costing you 480 points. Then we have those with what we can call the mega shooters, being the Bane sword at 430 points, but without the demolisher or autocannon. The Shadow Sword is 460 points with the spicy volcano cannon, and the Stormlord is also 460 points. The next 3 then have firing decks where between 10 to 20 models can fire from, with a total transport capacity of between 25 to a whopping 40 models can be carried. These are the Bane Hammer at 430 points, the Doom Hammer at 430 points, and the Stormlord at 470 points, being able to carry a whopping 45 models. Also, the recent chapter approved has removed the CP cost of running a super heavy detachment, so the 3 CP cost of running these has mercifully been removed. So from that, it's obvious that there's still a massive chunk of your army list points. Let's agree that average cost is 465 points. Now this is 40 points less, given their sponsored weapons are now 30 points each, where previously they were 50 points each. So essentially you're now getting the las cannons for free. To get a sense of their value, let's compare to a fully kitted tank commander Leman Russ with battle cannon, las cannon and 2 heavy bolters. I purposely choose a tank commander, given currently they see way more play than a standard Leman Russ, on account for their improved ballistic skill, tank orders and also being an officer, which helps with 2 of the new Astra Militarum specific secondary objectives. A tank commander costs you 230 points, and as reference, a standard Leman Russ costs 185 points. So basic math, you get 2 tank commanders for the price of this super heavy, or 2.5 standard Leman Russes, if you really wanted to. Also for your opponent, the Baneblade gives away 4 victory points to bring it down, whilst the 2 tank commanders obviously give away 4, so same from that point of view. So both the Leman Russ and the Baneblade now have the 2+ save, and the benefit of Armor of Contempt, reducing incoming AP by 1, so for practicality's sake, a 1+ save. A way to truly compare them both is their cost per wound, on account for the fact they're both toughness 8. The Baneblade with its 26 wounds is 18 points per wound, using the average of 465 points in total, whilst the Tank Commander is 19 points per wound for its 12 wounds. And again, as reference, the standard Leman Russ is 15 points per wound. So we're starting to get a sense of its potential value, but this of course isn't the complete picture. Let's now examine their shooters. Again, let me generalize and use a Baneblade variant. With sponsons, the Baneblade has got 6 heavy bolters, or 4 flamers in the sponsons, a D3 demolisher cannon, 2 las cannons and an autocannon, and of course its heavy 3d6 Baneblade cannon. As comparison, 2 tank commanders have 4 heavy bolters, 2 las cannons, and of course 2 battle cannons, which essentially is 2 heavy D6 shots on a thanks to grinding advance. Again as reference, 2.5 standard Leman Russes has 5 heavy bolters, 2.5 las cannons and 2 heavy D6 battle cannons obviously. So on paper we're roughly getting more shooters than the tank commander equivalent, thanks to more bolters, the autocannon and the D3 demolisher cannon. I'd argue that having heavy 3d6 on the Baneblade is better than 2 battle cannons that have to move under half to fire twice with grinding advance. And of course, compare this to the 2.5 Leman Russes, and probably getting about the same amount of shots, on account for the fact it's got 3 battle cannons. Now hopefully you're still with me given the numbers flying around, but at this point it appears that a Baneblade appears to be slightly better value than a tank commander, on account for the points per wound, and more shooters. Against a standard Leman Russ, the Baneblade is more expensive per wound, and has roughly the same amount of shooters. Beyond this, now let's lay out some of the pros and cons of the Tank Commander versus a Baneblade. So the first positive for the Tank Commander is a ballistic skill of 3+, which can be organically improved through tank orders. The Baneblade has ballistic skill of 4+, with no way to improve this beyond the Vestroian stratagem, Sergeant Harker or Commissar Yarrick. Our next positive for the Tank Commander is that you can give and receive tank orders, with Strike and Shroud improving its survivability or Full Throttle boosting its movement flexibility. Obviously a Baneblade can't have any of this. Next, the Tank Commander, as said, has got the Officer keyword, which can help with some Astra Militarum specific secondaries. Obviously the Baneblade can't help here. Next, the Tank Commander is obviously a regular size model. One negative for the Baneblade is it's physically massive and could have issues physically fitting into some terrain heavy maps. On the flip side, its massive size means it could completely cover an objective marker, so in the right terrain map, it could sit on top of a key objective and physically stop any other models from touching it. The Tank Commander has no transport capacity, while some variants of the Baneblade have transport capacity which shouldn't be undervalued. Next, depending on your list composition, your Tank Commander may have a permanent target painted on its back or gained by your opponent. Likewise, the Baneblade will always have a target painted on its back, and your opponent will always target it or simply just ignore it, which is both a positive and can be a negative. Now, a Tank Commander can't shoot out of combat, whilst a Baneblade can shoot out of combat and also fall back and shoot and also charge, so making it really hard to lock down. And finally, the Tank Commander is a cool model, but the Baneblade probably is the coolest model. So I'd say in the balance of things, a Tank Commander is still superior here, on account for the ballistic skill of 3+, tank orders and the Officer keyword. A Tank Commander is able to influence the game on account for these tank orders, now applicable to all Astra Militarum vehicles, of course except super heavy vehicles, which is a huge missed opportunity. Able to help score special orders and inflexible command is also pretty huge. The Baneblade, on the other hand, could dominate an area of the map and laugh as melee eager units charge in, possibly absorbing Overwatch from at least 8 shooters, dealing with 9 strength 9 attacks in melee, and then next turn have it reverse and blast them to bits. Of course, that's assuming your Baneblade survives abuse. As to receiving incoming damage, there are some ways to mitigate this. However, don't forget these can obviously still work on a Tank Commander as well. The classic is having 2 Astropaths, casting Night Shroud for the -1 to hit, and Psychic Barrier, pushing it to a practical save of -1. So against a Melter, you're saving on a 3+, which would be absolutely glorious. You could further babysit it with a Tech Priest Engine Seer, healing D3 wounds per turn. As said, Sergeant Harker or Commissar Yarrick could boost its accuracy, rerolling 1s to hit, but ultimately you are sinking even more points into the 465 points, so gobbling up now well over 25% of your army list point cost. On the flip side, it could be argued that a unit of such importance is worthy of maximum unit synergy to drive its performance. So is the Baneblade great again? Unfortunately not. It's simply still too expensive for what it is. Whilst a 2+ armor save helps, and likewise Armor of Contempt, Armor of Contempt applies to all other Astra Militarum vehicles, including the Forge World Super Heavy options, where better opportunity could lie. I reckon if the Baneblade's cost went down to be the same as a Lehman Russ at 15 points per wound, to be 390 points, it could work. Or if a -1 to damage reduction, or a feel no pain of some description, this would definitely warrant its current point cost. Ultimately, sticking 465 points into a ballistic skill 4+ unit is tough, and even with the 2+ save and Armor of Contempt, there is still plenty of weapon threats that would quickly work through the 26 wounds. Likewise, mortal wounds being now dealt out quite commonly, could see this thing being destroyed very quickly in turn 1 or turn 2, if you didn't get first turn, and your opponent got lucky with damage throws. Another super heavy ace of hull down deployment could help keep you on a 1+ save in turn 1, but is this really worth swapping for a full payload Manticore or Basilisk? Either way, what do you think? Is a Baneblade great again in your opinion? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Patreon Platoon, sound off. Tank Commander Glenn, Tank Commander Mitchell, Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten, Colour Sergeant DuPont, Sergeants Brady, Adal, Gilliam, Merrill, Veteran Gibson, Hall, Lundeen, Witten, Guardsman Combs, Flint, Heels, Malek, Nitin, Nguyen, Smith, Tom, Tompkin, Conscript Craft, Conscript England.